Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Let's Move Austin. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with Theresa.
Hello!
You say it. Here with
Theresa Bastian.
the lovely Theresa Bastian. Theresa, today we're talking about the dangers of overpricing.
Yes.
This is so important.
Yes. And this is something that comes up, as you can imagine, every time, literally, that I talk to a seller about getting ready to put their house on the market. It's always a question, what do you think we can get for it?
Yep.
Sometimes it's the determining factor, like the numbers won't work unless I get a certain amount.
Right.
So
Yep.
I understand the pressure and the importance of having a home priced aggressively to benefit my client.
Yep. Right. And?
However,
Yeah, right.
if a home is priced too aggressively, there are some real, serious documentable consequences that can happen that really make the home selling experience very difficult for the sellers.
Yeah, and not just difficult, but also can cost them money.
Yeah.
If they don't do it right. Yeah.
Oftentimes they end up making less than they would have if they had started with the right price.
Yeah. Well, I know you've got some talking points on this, and they're really important ones. So let's start with, can we start from the top?
Sure. I want to just kind of drill down into the dangers of overpricing.
Yeah.
I think that, the one that most people think is, it just might take longer to sell.
Right.
But I want to really think about what the impact of that is. If your home is on the market a long time, that means you are wrangling dogs or kids, or if you work from home, you're being asked to leave, multiple times a day for weeks and weeks, months. That can be a very frustrating and disheartening experience to have to keep your house clutter free and be ready to leave on a dime.
Yeah. Yep.
Another thing that happens is in a neighborhood, let's say the average days on market is 14. Mm-hmm. If your house is on the market 50 or 60 days, even if you're just like, I'll hold out for the buyer, the fact is that if your house is on the market a lot more than most houses, you're missing a chance, because a lot of buyers or their agents, they look at your days on market and assume something's wrong, and they won't bring people to look at your house.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's common.
A lot of times we won't know that happens, so that I as a listing agent, I don't know who looked at it on the computer and never came. I can talk to people that look at the house and I can explain the situation, but you're missing the chance to even interact with these people. They're just passing on.
Yeah.
Another thing that happens is if your house is overpriced, it is likely going to sell your neighbors' houses that are also on the market.
Yeah.
Because let's say your house is priced at, 300. If their homes are 280, that just makes their house look like a better deal.
Yep.
So you're not going to convince people to come up in price if a similar house is priced less. You're just going to sell that other house faster.
Yep. Yeah. So good.
Yeah. So in my experience, if you overprice the house, your whole experience is going to take longer and be more disappointing than if we just hit a price right off the bat.
Right. I know there's some different ways that agents will use to sort of determine if how much a house is overpriced. Like, how do you start to tell, am I just way out of the ballpark? Am I sort of there, but I still need to drop? What are some of the ways that we can figure that out?
I like to think of it that if we are getting showings from buyer's agents, so this is like kind of a matrix of how can you tell if you're overpriced, right, and how much, right? Like, where's that? Yep. If you're getting showings from other agents, so buyer's agents are putting their pre-approved clients in their cars and taking the time to show the house,
yep,
we're in the ballpark, maybe within 5%, because there's professional attention to the property.
Right.
Open house traffic, that tells us people are curious. They could be neighbors. They could be people visiting from out of town. They're generally not ready to buy a house today. So open house traffic can be a red herring in there. It's the showings by agents, professionals who are taking the time to make this house a consideration. That's what you really want to look for.
But if you're getting showings and no offers,
Then either there's something wrong with the house, and you can obviously, when I list a house, I always call for feedback and ask the buyer's agents what they thought.
yep.
But you can generally assume you're probably about 5% off.
Yeah. 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 So good. I like having something that is not a shot in the dark. I think sometimes as sellers, we would think, I don't want to just give my house away. I mean, I hear that all the time, right?
I hear that. Yeah.
Give my house away.
Of course not. And I don't want to make you give your house away.
Yeah. So it's nice to have something that is like tangible feedback so that I don't feel like, oh, I'm just dropping the price to drop the price. Be like, no, we're getting showings, but we're getting no offers. Like that is a sign.
Right. Or they were strong the first week, less the second week, and really dwindling after that. And again, this is all variable on what your local or your neighborhood statistics are.
Right.
Some neighborhoods do take 60 days on the market.
Yeah.
Typically in Austin right now, we're seeing much shorter time. I think another way you're kind of getting into the seller's, the homeowner's psyche a little bit. You don't want to give the house away. Why don't we just throw a number out and see if it's right?
Right.
That happens too. Like, I know it should be $399, but let's try for $425 and see.
Right.
Yeah. And the problem with that is, again, you hit the market at $425, you help 2 or 3 other homes that were priced better than yours sell. Now those buyers are no longer looking in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
You just, it shoots yourself in the foot. But I will say this, I do get a sense, and I think that it's fair for sellers to be a little skeptical about what their listing agent is doing to bring people to the property. So it is fair to ask your listing agent, and I always bring this to my sellers and show them where I'm going to be advertising the property.
Yeah.
And then again, if people are viewing the home but not writing offers, the marketing is working.
Right.
Okay, so that's a way to kind of double check that your realtor didn't just stick a sign in the yard and disappear.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Most realtors would rather sell the house for a high price because you're going to be a happy seller. I'm going to set a sales record in that neighborhood. It's a win-win. Most realtors don't set out to get you the lowest price.
Right.
At least that's not my philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, I want to go back to the thing about like when a house first comes on the market, you typically get the most traffic.
Yes.
If you don't pull offers in that time, then what? Like, I know it's an important.
That's what's really difficult to get through to people, because a lot of sellers, they have equity in the house. Maybe they're still living there. They'd rather, in their mind, they're saying, well, if it takes a month or 2, I'd rather have it take that long than give away $25,000.
Right.
But the fact is that if you're stuck on that price 30 or 60 days from now, you're not going to have anyone looking at the property, most likely.
Yeah.
Unless you do a price reduction.
Yep.
So then now you're taking longer and you're not getting the net you thought. You're slowly, incrementally, water torture, dropping that price.
Yeah.
And you end up what we call chasing the market down. And it's a very frustrating experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Those buyers, I mean, the first week when your house hits the market, there's this big pool of buyers who are looking, and if it's priced right, they'll come through, right, and see it. But if you, like you said, like try to go too high because you want to just see what we can get, then you wait, then at some point you just start to get the little trickles of new buyers that come into the market. And that's not like the bulk. That's like a couple here, a couple there. And yeah. And if you got, like you said earlier, 60 days on market when the average is 14.
And those buyers that are trickling in over the weeks, they feel like they have more leverage against you.
Yeah.
Because if the house has already had a price reduction, well, we're not going to offer what they're asking now. I mean, clearly they started too high. I mean, I've said those things as a buyer's agent when my clients are preparing to make an offer. So I know that that's what that looks like if you are the listing agent.
Yep.
So in addition to not getting the price, we thought we might get, you might get less than the realistic price that was kind of the recommended price.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you chase the market down.
Yeah. And people perceive there's something wrong with the house, or that they can just kind of get one over you because you're going to be desperate because your house didn't sell.
Yeah.
And that's not a strong position to negotiate from.
Because then too, like, so, and I see this all the time, the emotions start to happen. So a buyer comes in and goes, well, we're not going to offer the full thing. So they give you a lower offer, and then you're offended by the offer. So you're like, well, I'm not going to take that offer. And so now we stay on the market even longer.
Yeah.
And we have this battle of
and I don't mean to say that there's never a time when a seller really needs to get a certain price or selling the house doesn't make sense. I mean, there are times, but I'm talking about when the sellers and I sit down and kind of agree that this price makes sense.
Yep.
And then they still want to go bump it higher. We'll just see. That's what I'm talking about, where you'd be comfortable at this price, but we just have to see if we could get this price. That's the danger zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Are there any other things you want to say about the dangers of overpricing?
Well, one thing is, I do want to say that I think it's a misconception that people assume sellers are greedy. I don't think sellers are greedy. I don't think sellers are greedy. I think that they can be over aggressive.
Yep.
They can be optimistic.
Yep.
Here in Austin, we hear stories about houses selling in, 4 minutes before they ever hit the market. And there's, wheelbarrows of cash coming into the front yards. But, it's easy to get swept up in that.
Yeah.
But every market, every neighborhood has its own statistics. And so you can't get swept up into an overall picture. You have to know your neighborhood statistics. And also keep in mind that the market can ebb and flow. Now, I'm not talking about a dramatic shutdown, an economic downturn. We all know when that happens.
Right.
There's also certain months that certain neighborhoods don't sell a lot in.
Yeah.
The market can soften slightly around holidays or around summer vacation time, or here in Texas, when it's blistering hot in August, that can be a difficult month. So you have to kind of know what your price was based on the timing you said. So if I'm working with sellers and they have to do some things to get ready, we price the house, what I think it should be for a May 1st listing. But if it's not ready until August 1st,
right,
we've missed a lot of really desirable time, especially if it's a family home, for people to move in the summer. So one reason it could be overpriced is you listed in August with the May price.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, you have to reevaluate all the time.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is really not a seller's fault, but it can happen, is, we priced it, we estimated a certain price, and then during the next 2 weeks, while the sellers got everything ready and we did the photo shoot, 3 houses came on the market priced more aggressively than what we were agreed to do. And as a seller, I understand that's really difficult to readjust. Like, you've already made the commitment to sell, you've already done all these things to get ready, and through no fault of your own, there's 3 other houses now you're competing with that'll probably sell before yours if you don't adjust your price. So it's not always because sellers are greedy. Things can shift. It's a moving target, real estate.
Yeah. I think what I love about the insider knowledge, if you will, that you have, like knowing what a May listing versus an August, like just having this like perspective that only comes with experience, is so important to navigate how to get that house positioned right.
Absolutely. I mean, the information is there, quite frankly, but a lot of people don't know how to use it or don't drill down to that level of detail. And I mean, I'll look in a neighborhood and see how many homes sold last May versus last August. Just, if someone's like, hey, I could put the house on the market anytime, what's the best time?
Right.
I can go back and look at that. I'm not guessing.
Yeah. I think, I don't want to, I'll say this out loud, but I think a lot of people guess in real estate. I think the barrier to entry into real estate is pretty low. Pretty low.
We talked about.
And I used to teach a class on, how do you do a CMA for sellers? How do you find comparables and sort of find strategic pricing? And just a lot of times agents in the class would just glaze over because 1, they don't like numbers. 2, they don't think strategically about how do I look at numbers and interpret numbers. So I know there's just a lot of people that guess. Yeah.
And, quite frankly, your home is a huge investment, probably the biggest in your life, and you shouldn't be guessing. You should take the advice. And that's just kind of, if you don't have that level of trust with your realtor, then you
Yep.
need to interview other realtors, and I want to work with people that trust me on that level because I've done this long enough. I've seen this dance. That extra 20,000, let's see if it works, is
Yeah.
a very disheartening process. It doesn't work. In fact, you know what works? Let's say you think the house should really be 399 just for kicks. If you put it on for 375, you know what would happen?
Mm.
You'd have multiple offers and
Yeah.
it would sell for up at the 400 range.
Yeah.
The market will adjust unless
Right.
it's some, super unique property. And in that case, it's a different
Yeah.
story.
Right.
But most sellers aren't willing to underprice either. And I don't advocate that, but
Right.
the market will bring it where it needs to be.
Yeah. That's so good. It's good. Any other wisdom on?
I think that's it. I guess the biggest thing is if you're thinking about selling your house and the finances are, a deciding factor, you should talk to me early on. I can do an entire seller's net sheet based on different prices. It'll have all the expenses that you can expect, and you can have all that data to review before you get in, too far. And then I work with sometimes sellers for, 6 months, a year before they're ready to put the house on the market. And I update those all the time. So if you think you have a number in mind, you want to make sure that's still the number. Sometimes you can be pleasantly surprised. The number goes up dramatically.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want to watch out for softening. So
yeah, I like it. So if people want to connect with you over look at their house, kind of talking through how, like, when should I position, like whatever, how do they reach out to you about that?
The best way would be to just give me a call, 512-297-3442. I think it's on the screen.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Theresa, thanks for another great episode. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, Chris.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.